Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Shellie Geigle with J&S Hobbies and Crafts, and today's tutorial is on the Stamperia Songs of the Sea large album. This measures 9 5/8 after wrapping by 10 5/8, and the spine is about 2 7/8. Now this album was made after the design of the Stamperia Coffee and Chocolate project share I did, and a lot of you wanted the design. So I went ahead and used different paper. So let's take a look at this. And this is the one where they are angled in and protected behind the chipboard. So let's get into this. On our first page we have this. Now one thing I want to tell you is that in the materials list I only called out for 1 pack of the basic gray large magnets. I did end up putting a small magnet here and here to keep the flap closed after the tutorial. And I believe I mentioned that in the tutorial that I did that with the other album. But this opens up. And right here is a tuck, and this you can kind of slide your photo in and out. And I have a picture mat in there. This is a large fold out. And over here is a large area for photographs. Over here is a small tuck, and there's a place right here for a photograph as well. This is just from the paper pack. And then there's this large pocket, and you can get more picture mats in here than I did. I just didn't have enough with the remaining prints, and I did seam together like this and a couple others. Moving on to page 2, we have a large flip, and when you flip that up, there's a nice good size place that you can place a photograph. And then this flips down, same thing down here. Over here are 2 fold outs, and you can also get a photograph in here, and it frames beautifully with the decorated paper. This is a tuck, and this is just like a little tag from the paper collection, and I made a folder there. And then here is where you can slide a photograph back behind to get it to frame, and it looks really good. Then behind that is just a large tuck, and from the paper collection I just made this large folder, and I didn't finish the inside. Moving on to page 3 is just a very large pocket, and you can get a lot more than I was able to, of course. Here is a large mat, and of course I prefer matting mine on black cardstock, then using up some of the designer paper that's left over to give me a nice border around so that my photograph, when it's placed down, it matches in with the collection. And then here was another folder. Page 4 is our waterfall, and this is just a magnetic strap. And we went ahead and covered all the pages. However, what we did was we seamed together scraps. Because it's so large, there were skinny pieces of designer paper that was left over after cutting our base pages and whatever else we did. And so we seamed them together to make use of it. That way we weren't left with just a bunch of scraps. And right down here, if you had a photograph on the landscape, you could place one right there. Moving on to page 5, we have a large fold out, and that is magnetic. And what we have over here is a little side tuck area, and then when you open it up, there's a place for photograph, and you could do one here unless I wanted to keep the mermaid myself, but I would be placing a photograph there. And I believe I gave you some options on flipping the paper over to make, without the photograph. And then here, this is where you can just go ahead and place photographs, and then the same thing over here, a little side tuck, and then it folds out. And then that just all goes back together. Over here is a large pocket. You could also get a photograph in right here. And I have a couple mats in there. Moving on to page 7, we have a very large magnetic flip. And once again, it's large enough for a photograph. And same up here. Here up front we have 2 large flips, and we do have a flip here and a flip here. And we open it up and we have 2 pockets. I think you can see that. It's a large album, so I'm kind of struggling keeping everything in frame there. Last page, page 8. This is a very large flip. And when you flip it up, we created a pocket. And I have another one of these. And another thing on this, we created a tuck. So if you wanted to tuck a photograph or a tag, you could do that. And then down here, we have a little pocket for maybe some tags or smaller photo mats. And what I have in here is from the collection, just some pieces. We have a large flip, and we can go ahead and open that up. And we have another pocket over here. I have some photo mats in. And then we have a corner pocket that's very roomy. I have some mats, and then I have another one of these in there. So that is what we will be making today. Let's move on into the materials list. And underneath this video in the description area, there are links to get the cutting guide for this and the materials list. And also on the materials list, there's some links that go straight to my store in case you are wanting to purchase. We're going to review the materials list. You're going to want 3 of the Stamperia Songs of the Sea 12x12 paper packs. Now in this tutorial it's a little bit different, and if you are wanting to use the coffee and chocolate paper, because this album is based off the shape of this and how we did all this, then you would need 3 of your coffee and chocolate. And I have links below the video in the description area to my store for that. So 3 of these. You're going to want 2 pieces of 12x12 medium weight chipboard. I'm using the American Crafts 12x12 black smooth cardstock. You're going to want your Tyvek. I sell them in the envelope, but we're just going to need some strips off this. So again, this album is a little bit different. 1 pack of score tape, 3/8. And mostly we're going to be using glue on this, which I normally don't do in my albums. Usually it's more score tape than glue, or 50-50. But in this one, because it's a little bit different, we will be using more glue. And I'm using the Art Glitter Dries Clear adhesive. You'll want 1 pack of magnets, and I'm using the basic gray large. And optional, the Tim Holtz baseboard chipboard pieces. And they're the window frames. This tutorial is a little different. So you're going to want 3 pieces of maybe a colored cardstock. You can use white or alternating. It's up to you. I'm going to use 3 different colors. Now one of these I won't be cutting into at all. The other 2 will be cut into. So I'll be cutting on these for templates. This one, what this is for, is that when we are actually going to place, and this is an example, of course, our piece. I opted to using a solid colored cardstock. It's easier to see our edges because we do come pretty close sometimes to that. So that's all this third one's for. These are 12x12 sizes, and again, 2 of these are going to be cut down. Okay, I think that's it. Other than that, equipment that you are going to need. You're going to want a scoring board, paper cutter, definitely need a ruler for this one, a pencil, an eraser, you might want some heavy-duty scissors, You might want some fussy cut scissors. Craft knife's going to be handy, and of course your bone folder scoring tool. Okay, let's get started. All right, so we're going to start with the base album, and our chipboard covers were 9.5 by 10.5, and we did label them covers. And there was a note saying we will shape these in the tutorial, and that's what we're going to do right now. Now, you probably wrote on both of yours, like it said, to label them. Right now, with the two sides that you wrote, I want you just to sandwich them. So you have nothing here and nothing on the back. And the only reason why I say that is because the angles are different here and here. And that is because when I did the coffee and chocolate, the house was angled different. So I'm going to keep that going with what we're doing in this with the paper I chose for this tutorial. Now if I sound different, it's because I am still congested from being sick. We have these two sandwiched. And it's really important that we keep this going the right way, because this angle, like I said, is going to be different from this. And if you get these flipped around when we're assembling, that's not a good thing, because then your album will not look good. Here, what we're going to write is the outside front cover. Okay? I want you to write that. Now, I want you to flip this over where we wrote, okay? And this is the inside of the front cover. Okay? So now we're looking at this one. This is the inside of the back cover. Flip it over, outside, back cover. And again, I know it seems like it's real pesky to do this, but this was kind of a different album. All right, so let's start with the outside front cover. And you'll see as we get going why I'm doing it like this. All right, get your ruler and your pencil. What we're going to do, here's the top left edge. We're going to measure over 5/8. Okay, I'm right at the top edge there. And I'm just going to make a pencil mark. Now what we're going to do is we're going to measure down 1 7/8. And right along the edge there, we'll just make a little dot. Here it is. I think you can see that. So next what you're going to do is you're going to lay your ruler down, find where your mark is here, and find where it is on the side. And we're going to draw as best you can. So this one over here, we're going to measure in 1 inch. And I am going to bring this up so I don't get my head in the video, so I can get this accurate. 1 inch. At the top, I'll make that. And then 1 7/8 down. And I'm going to draw. And like I said, try to get your lines as even and perfect that you can. Okay? So in this tutorial, because our inner pages and this is angled, especially our inner pages, as you can see, we will be using templates. It'll make our life so much easier when we go to cut our paper. It'll be cool, a lot better. Okay, so I'm using heavy duty scissors and I am going to cut. And I'm going to try to be as perfect as I can. Just cut straight on over. And I'm going to do it over here. Just taking my time. This is where one of our colored cardstocks come into place. And the reason why I'm not using black is because it blends in too much with the black cardstock in our book. So outside front cover, all we're going to do is line this up exactly with this. This is our rough draft. And we will tailor it to fit our book a little bit better. Let me get my pencil. And we're going to trace around this shape. This is what's going to make it easier for us with our designer paper. So with this, I'm going to put this on my paper cutter, and I am going to cut just to the left of the pencil mark. Cut this out really quick. Okay, so I have this. Let's label this. So make sure that this is fitting over. So this is going to be a template for our chipboard covers and on the inside. And on this one, just put outside. And the reason why is because this matches this. Okay, so this would be the outside. So when we go to cut our paper, and then we have this, when we flip it over, it's going to match the corners. And you know, you don't even have to write outside if you don't want to. But I do want to get that before we do anything else. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so this is the outside front cover. Here is our inside of the back cover. I want you to place these down together. Make sure they are lined up, and you're going to draw that line. Make it real easy for us. Okay, the only thing I have to say is when you cut, just cut right to the inside of that so that they will match up. There's that and that. So now when you put these together, they should line up. See that? They should be even. Now we also have a spine, and that was 2.5 by 7 5/8. We're going to go through what we cut to make sure that our cuts are accurate. I'm going to take this slow. We also had 2 pieces of Tyvek. We didn't label them because it's kind of a strange paper, but they are 1 inch by 7 5/8. And now we're going to get to our 9 by 10 5/8 inner pages. Okay, these are ones that we have to angle. I only labeled one of mine, and I think I told you to do the same. But when we look at these to do our measurement, I want you to have the score line off to the left hand side while we're doing this on each one. So let's start with this one. Let's get our ruler and our pencil. All right. So here is the score line, here's the side of my paper. We are going to measure down 1 3/4. So here's 1 3/4. Now you're going to measure over 1 3/4. Okay, now this one is a little different. We're going to start here. Now, don't measure from here to here. What I want you to do is you see where your score line is, and this one you're going to cut straight to the score line, right there. Just like that. So here it is, where my mark is to there. Now we take the ruler, and we line up from our mark up here to the score line. So it's a little different. So I'm just making sure I get where I need to be. And I'm going to draw. Now we are going to cut to the score line. Carefully. So that is what you should look like. All right, it's time to get this side. Measure in 1 inch. Make your mark. Now we're going to measure down 1 3/4 along the side there. I'm going to double check myself. Make sure that's accurate. 1 inch, 1 3/4. Perfect. Let's just draw that line. Point to point there. And now we're going to cut that. So we have this one done, and I kind of want to show you how this is going to work. This side is deeper than that side, and the reason why is because here's our outside front, even though that this side is deeper than what you would think. But once you have, let's say that this is the back, and we have this all assembled, I just want to show you so you understand what's happening here and it's not wrong. Let's just say that's my spine. So it's going to sit short, of course, because we have that opening. When we get this in there, okay, you will see that it's going to look correct. This side has to go in a little bit more because it's opened. It's open on the edge, and we don't want anything getting caught on the outside. So this is what it looks like on the inside. Once this is down, you see? Let me scoot it down a little there. But that is how we have to do that. All right, so here are our other two. This is real easy. Hinges over here. We're going to line these up. And all we're going to do is draw. We're not going to do the measuring thing. We're just going to draw because that is the easiest way. Otherwise, we're going to be sitting here all year long measuring. And I wanted to do this as easy as I could. So now I'm going to go up here. I'm going to come down and over. So it's our template. And we're going to cut. If you want to. So there's two. And then we have our last one. So go ahead and do that. Make sure you're all evened up and just trace and cut. Okay, our inner pages are done. They should be lined up together. They should all look like this. Before we move on, we're going to go ahead and get our inner decorated page template done. So grab one of your pages that we created, our inner page with the hinge, and we're just going to place it down to the bottom of one of our cardstock pieces. And you'll want to try and get this as straight as you can. I think I'm pretty good. And we're going to draw. This is just the beginning of our little draft. Now when you come down to where your score line is, I want you to stop. Okay, just stop. What we're going to do is put this on our paper cutter, line up the edge of our pencil mark over here, and cut a straight line. Okay, so I have mine all cut. Now it's time to get this fitted. If you would like to just place it, it will be the perfect image of what you have. It's time to tailor this down. So make sure that when you're looking at this, your hinge is over here and you're looking at the correct angle. I want you to measure over 1/4 inch from this side and put a pencil mark. We're going to cut. From this side, measure over 1/8. Put a pencil mark, trim this side down. All right. Now if we were to line this up and kind of push it over 1/8, that should give us enough room over here in case we have a hinge or whatnot. Okay, so that's what we should look at. I'm going to push this hinge back behind so you can see a little bit better what I'm talking about. Because sometimes we need that extra room from the hinge in order to accommodate bulk. So that's what that should look like. Okay, you're going to measure up from the bottom 1/8. Make a pencil mark. And from top down, approximately 1/8. We're going to trim this way and down that side. Now, if you place this down, leave yourself 1/8 over here, 1/8 from the bottom showing in front of you, and this is where I'm going to bring this in. It's going to make it so much easier. Okay, I'm going to fold my flap back behind. If I move this up to where that 1/8, so I'm pretty straight up there. From here, I want you to measure in 1/8. Make your pencil mark. Same over here, about 1/8. Now we're going to trim this and this. Okay. Once again, I have my flap back behind, and now I'm going to see if this fits good. 1/8 at the top, approximately at the sides. If you need to do more trimming, do so, but this is what mine looks like, and it's going to work. This is now our template. So this side, make sure you're on the right side because we're going to label these, okay? Make sure that your angles are correct. This is our template for our designer paper. This side is going to be page 2, 4, 6, and 8. Okay, flip it over. This is for page 3, 5, and 7 designer paper. Okay, the reason why I'm having you do that is because this, let's say this is our first page in the book. We have the chipboard cover on this side, okay? So this would be our page 2. It fits. When we flip this in the book over, this becomes page 3. Notice you're not going to fit right. So there's page 3. This is going to make our life easier. Like I said, when I was doing this, the chocolate or the coffee and chocolate album, I'm not going to sit there and measure every page out for my designer paper. The template works excellent. Okay, let's move on. We also had a 4 by 7 5/8, and we just called that an inner spine cover. We had, ooh, what happened there? Oh, 2 pieces that are 10.5 by 11.5, and we called those our album wrap. So while we have this out, okay, we are 11.5 tall. Okay, so we would be 10.5 wide looking at this, okay? So you might want to do this to remind yourself which way your paper is supposed to go when we go to lay it. All right, and we also have a 6" by 11.5", the last piece to our album wrap. Now again, this is going to be done differently than my other tutorials. This is the second time that I have made this, and I wanted to simplify the process. So let's start off by grabbing our 6 by 11.5 album wrap and our 10.5 by 11.5 album wrap. We'll put everything else to the side. Let's grab our score tape. What we're going to end up doing is placing a piece of score tape down the long side of this. We are going to overlap by 3/8. We'll stick a piece over here, and this will overlap this by 3/8. And that way we have one big large album wrap. So let's do it. So I'll put this one off to the side, and I know that I need here, again, 11.5 tall. Yep. And we're just going to place a piece of our 3/8 all the way down without going over on this and right here. So let's do that. Now when it comes to actually wrapping this, because we have those curves, it's all mathematical, really. And I am not a mathematical person. So I'm going to show you exactly where we will be cutting when it goes to wrapping to make this easier. It's not perfect, but by the time you're done, you won't be able to tell. All right, if you are new to using score tape or using your glue, you're always going to be burnishing down your score tape. Always, to get the air out from underneath it. And as far as glue, once you glue something down, you have to burnish. You don't want any lumps, bumps, and all that. So I am removing that. I have this. And I am just going to try and do this as best I can, evenly, and laying this on top. I usually use a paper guide to help me keep this straight, but we're just going to go with this. And then we have this one, and this goes on top of that. So wish me luck here. Try to get this on even. I don't think that's quite even, but that's okay. Before we do anything, I want you to grab, this is the outside front cover, and you're going to flip it over here. So this would be looking at the inside of the front cover, okay? Now when you lay this down, I want to show you what we're doing first. It's easier when you're learning or doing something new. But when you lay this down, leave 1 inch of spacing of your cardstock showing, 1 inch and 1 inch. We're just laying it down for right now. Your spine. What you're going to do is we're going to leave about 1/4 inch of spacing, and you're going to line up the bottom, not the top, with this one. And just kind of lay it down, and you can just eyeball it for now, and then you can actually measure it if you'd like, but leave 1/4 inch. And then we want to look at what we're doing here. This should also say inside of the back cover. You do not want to lay it like this, where it says outside, okay? That's what I'm talking about, being able to match up correctly. And that's going to be about 1/4 inch away, lined up. So that's what you're going to be looking at. So you're going to be looking like that. All right, so we know where everything is going to place. It's going to fit evenly in here, we should have about 1 inch left over on this side, here, and here. So we can just go ahead and start with that. All right, so we want to make sure, I'm going to get this out of the way for right now. You're going to flip these over. You're going to have outside front cover here, outside back cover here. Grab your score tape. And what we're going to do with this is we are going to go all the way around this without going over, like a picture frame on each one of these. So this is what you should have. Now what I do on this one, I want you to do on this one, okay? We're going to go straight down the middle. And we're going to go ahead and place, let's see, 1, 2, so 2 over here too. That sounded funny. 2 over here as well. Okay, same. Let's give this a good burnishing. Okay, here we go. I'm going to grab this, and I'm looking at the side with all the writing on it. Okay, so the one that I want is the outside front cover. Okay, outside front cover is what we put the score tape on. So when we flip this down and put it in here, it's going to say inside of the front cover. So let's get the score tape on. Okay, again, inside of front cover. And we are going to place this so that there is 1 inch here, and 1 inch here. As best you can, guys. Just do the best you can. Try to get it on straight. I may have got mine on a little bit crooked, but I'm not going to worry about it. We still have this one, but let's get our chipboard spine ready to go. We're just going to go all the way around like a picture frame on this. And once you have that, we're just going to go 2. 1, 2, just space them out. Now we're going to burnish, and now we're going to remove the adhesive paper, whatever. I think my head's still a little foggy from this congestion. I think after I do this tutorial, if it isn't gone, I better go to the doctor. Make sure that it's not a sinus infection. Okay, now remember, this bottom has to match up with the bottom of this one, and 1/4 inch away. Okay, this one's easy. We burnished, remove your score tape backing, and we're going to match up the bottom of this with the bottom of the spine cover, leaving a 1/4 inch spacing. So let's do that. All right, so this is the part where wrapping is a little bit different than what we've done before. So here's the top of our album. We're going to flip this around so it's easier for us to do. What we're going to do, and I'm going to draw this out, but you're going to be about an inch away from here, and you don't have to be perfect. You're going to come about an inch away from the spine. Look at that craziness. And an inch. You just want room to be able to wrap, okay? And it's just a rough drawing, okay? Just do the best you can. And then I'm just going to cut. Whoops, got to get that off there. All I'm doing is trying to keep this, you know, and it doesn't have to be exactly straight. So I'm going to turn this back around so you can see. I am not a total inch away. I managed to get about 3/4 of an inch here, about 3/4, and I left about an inch or 7/8 or so. Like I said, you just need enough so that we can wrap. Now I'm going to show you what we're going to do to start this off. The first thing is down here at the bottom, we're going to slowly, just little by little. If you do it all at once, you're going to tear your paper. So just work it little by little. Okay? We do have to snip this in several places around this area. It's just the way I was able to do it. And like I said, it's not perfect. If you are perfect at wrapping these curves and getting it to work out perfect for you, then do it your own way. But if you're not, and it's the first time you've done something like this, I'm just going to show you exactly where I'll be snipping and all that. So now that I've done that, okay, I'll just press it down. I'm kind of working the paper a bit. I'll come over to the side and I'm going to do the same thing. Just kind of get it up against the chipboard there. Not too tight, but enough. Let's go over to this side, do the same thing. And you can crease it, you can do whatever, because we'll be monkeying around with it. Now, over here, we have that. I'm just going to bring my paper this way. Okay. Now we have something, when we're done here, we also have to layer Tyvek first before we do wrap. But I'm just getting my paper kind of ready to go. And this is how I ended up doing it. So less chances for tears and all that. The top, slowly. I'm just going to go right back over that little thing that I did. And again, don't judge. We're just doing the best. I'm doing the best I can. I'm not great at mathematics. I can do measurements and all that, but when it comes down to these curves and all that, I don't know all that stuff. So Tyvek time. We'll get this down and then we'll start snipping. We do not bend in here because obviously we would tear. We need to make cuts in certain places all over the place here. Okay, Tyvek. Let's get it on there. If you are new to Tyvek, it's a material that is hard to tear, and I like to put this in my binding. So I'm going to place a strip off to the left, and it crinkles up on you. It's okay. This all gets covered. And then one off to the right should be plenty. If you want to put one down the middle, you could, but I think this is going to be just fine because we have that spacing anyway. I think we're going to be just fine. And if you notice I have a seam here, I'm not going to worry about that. My tape is going over, it's all good. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. But it's just one along each side. And then I'll clip off anything that overhangs. We're going to give those a good burnish to iron that out a bit. And if you get wrinkles, like I said, in your Tyvek, it wrinkles up when you're putting the tape. Because it got crazy on you, don't worry about it. You're not going to be able to see it by the time we're done layering papers and all that. Okay, I'm going to remove the backing off one of these, and I'm going to show you exactly what we're going to do. If you are new to working with score tape, make sure you wash your hands free of any lotions or oils. Otherwise, you're not going to get the potency and you can get liftage. So here we go. Here is our spacing. Here's the spine and one of the covers. We're just going to lay this evenly, starting at the bottom. So then we're just going to burnish this, okay? And we're going to do the same thing. Remove the score tape backing, start at the bottom, lay it evenly over that, and then burnish. All right, it's time to clip this a bit. Let's see. First things first, down at the bottom, just like we would with any other album, we're going to cut across, leaving about 1/8 of an inch from the corner of that chipboard. So stay 1/8 of an inch away. And you don't have to use any special tools, just your scissors, and cut at an angle as best you can. That's the bottom right side. Here's the bottom left side, and I'm going to do the same thing. That's our first cut, so you can see. I'll bring it up. It's kind of hard to see in video with such a big album, but you can see I am away 1/8 of an inch from that. And I keep bumping the darn camera. I came a little close on that one, but I think I'll be okay. All right, like I said, this is not perfect. I'm going to turn this so the top of the album's here. And you see where our first... This is where we creased at an angle, and then we went like this. But do you see where the point is on your album? Right here. I'm going to draw it first before I do anything. But here's that bottom point. Okay. We're going to clip straight in, and you can leave maybe a 1/16 or just go right up there. But I'm going to leave about a 1/16 away, so you can see what I did. Straight in. We're going to come to this side, and we're going to do the same thing. Right here. Leave about a 1/16 away. Turn this upside down. So this is where we just cut. See where the top one is? We're going to go straight to it. Leave about a 1/16. We can fix that right there. Over here. Straight in to that corner. Leave just a 1/16 or something. Okay. So I'm looking at this upside down at this point. It's easier. This thing's so big. Okay, so with this flattened down, what you're going to do, and you can use a ruler or whatever, but do you see where the corner right here of this piece is and the corner of it over here? I'm just going to kind of draw a line to the outsides there as best I can. It doesn't have to be completely perfect, but do you see that? So now I'm just going to cut from that corner to this corner. And I need to erase that pencil line. I got crazy. So here we are. I'm going to lay this flat so you can see. So I'm just going to draw from here to here as best I can so you can see what I'm trying to achieve here. Like I said, this is not perfect, but by the time we're done, you won't know anyway. Now we're at that little V part. We're going to cut straight to the corner here, leaving about, just kind of line it up with the corner there as best you can. I'm going to leave maybe a 1/16. So there's that. And the same over here as best I can. Leave about a 1/16 away. Okay, so this is where it's not perfect, but you see where the corner of this is? To corner of here. And if we need to monkey around with this, we will, because I know I had to. Okay? So to the corner of this chipboard cover, down here to here. And like I said, we're going to have some adjustments to do. I'm just going to cut. Okay? So now, what we have is this. Keep some of this handy because I think there is a place or two that we're going to need to snip off to cover up some stuff, but all right. So we have that. Let's go ahead and start with the bottom. I'm going to use score tape. So I'm just going to run score tape along the bottom of my chipboard and to the edge. And I'll do it right here. Like I said, this is kind of a confusing. When I was trying to do this myself, I felt a little confused, but I think if you just trust the process, I guess you'd call it, or just go along with me on it. And again, we can fix anything that doesn't look right as well, because we'll have paper to cover all this. Okay. I'm going to burnish this really good. Then I'm going to remove the score tape backing. And I'm teaching it fairly slow because, like I said, I'm thinking before I do, this is the second time I did this, and I do have a miniature version of the layout of this so that I could try and get some snips that help me remember where I should be cutting and all that. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to start kind of right over here where the seam is and press, and we'll press over here where the other seam is and just kind of work this our way out. Okay. Now, if you get any splits around where the seams are, that's fixable. That happens sometimes, and we'll fix that when we have this all together at the end there. It's not a big deal. Now, we are going to have a little bit of bulk. Okay, and we have some trimming to do, but right now I pull in these. Okay, so you'll notice when you pull this in up here at the top, you're going to have a little bit that kind of flops over, this little bit right here. You can go ahead and just trim a little bit before we do this. This is where we're going to be using glue, guys. I need to clean this for sure. I think I need a new tip. Okay, so just put a little bit of glue on this. We'll pull that in. Okay. And because we did that side, I want to do this side. So pull this in. And I'm just going to crease where I need to, that overlap onto this is. And I'm going to carefully try to clip off without getting too crazy. That works. Okay, so I clip that off. Let's get this. So I think the most time consuming is this wrapping and getting this pieced down, you know. All right, now that we have these flaps in, I'm going to grab my other tool here. But what we're going to do is, you see down here we left that 1/8 of an inch. We're going to take our tool and we're going to hold this down with a finger and just kind of go like we're going around a corner. And that should tuck in that extra down there so we're not so pokey. So that when we wrap it over, we get a nice edge down here. So I'm going to add my glue. Like I said, I usually use just score tape, but that should fold over nicely. We're not going to worry about these creases you might see, because I did all of this and had creases in this, and look, here's the back of this. You really can't see it. Oh, come on, focus. You really can't see it. Like I said, I'm doing the best I can with this, teaching this. That is why I did a share rather than just jumping in with it with you with the chocolate and coffee thing. I needed to know what the heck I was doing rather than taking along a frustrating journey, because it did get a little frustrating trying to do this. So I went around the corner again to tuck in a little bit. Now I'm just going to apply my glue, and we're going to fold this over. and burnish. Okay. Again, if you get any shards, like it happens right where the seams are, I got some, but I'm not worried about it. I'm going to show you where the seam was. Sometimes you get that. We're just not going to worry about that right now. Okay. Next, right here, we're going to pull this one over. We're right in the middle there. Pull that over. And I think it'll be easier if I just crease that a bit with my nail so that I can trim anything I need. Okay. So that's all I did. We're going to glue that down. And we're going to do the same thing over here. Pull that in. I'm going to crease that excess so I can see where I need to go. And I'm going to cut from this side so I don't make a mistake because my brain doesn't work like the normal. Just going to clip off what I can. And we're going to put a little glue there. Pull that in. Now this is where I said, before we do this, we have, look here, we have empty space right here. That's where I said our clippings that we do may come in handy here. So that we may want to just go something like this, you see, to cover up the excess. Because I couldn't figure it out, you guys, on how to knot. And all we need is a small piece that fits right in here. So I'm just going to kind of grab a piece of my clippings. See where I'm at here. I'll bring this down, this over. Just kind of cut a piece that's going to fit in there as best I can. And then, like I said, I warned ya. And we can always tuck that underneath this too, because that's the idea. And then get it right in there so it covers. But like I said, I wasn't able to see anything, so I just cut a piece. All I need to do is just make sure that it covers that spot going around here. Now, don't glue this down. We got to do that again over here. And I'm just kind of looking at some of my pieces here. My clippings from the album. And if I go right here, that's fine. Now, I don't need to make this any smaller because I'm not too concerned. But we do need to burnish these down, make sure. Because we are right here where the hinge is. So I'm just doing that. I'm going to burnish this down. And now we can bring the top down. And we'll burnish. Alright, so now for this. Okay. Now this is where we can kind of fold back a piece or whatever to make it like that. I'm just going to fold back this way just to kind of give me an angle. Fold them back, and then I'll trim off that little bit of excess right on that fold. I'm going to do it. So, like I said, I usually do the score tape more than the glue as far as the construction, but on this one, guys, especially when we lay our paper in here, we really need to use glue so that we get situated to fit nicely. Score tape, I tried with my first one. It's too difficult to get it on there right. So we'll pull that one down, and I'm just going to pull this back a little bit so I have a thing. This one's already done for me pretty much. And I'll clip it. Well, that's my wrapping idea. That's how I was able to get this thing wrapped. Now, it doesn't look too pretty through here, but I'm not going to worry about it because I'm not going to see that. And if any of you are really good with math and angles and all that, you know, that would be a good tutorial for you to do, is showing correctly how to cut this thing. So, you know. All right, so don't bend your album just yet. Look at that. I've never had such a thing before, but that is the way it is. One thing that we're going to do now, actually, if you want to go like that, you can. It doesn't make a difference. But what I want us to do with this is, you see where your creases are here? This piece here is going to, see how it kind of covers a lot of that up? This piece here, we're going to lay down, and you should have about a 1/16 from the bottom of this, 1/16 away from the bottom of this. So it's going to fit in there real snug. But that was my idea, to kind of cover up any flaws or anything like that. Now this piece, I am definitely going to use the score tape. I like it because of that stuff. And we are going to do stuff totally different, guys, as far as after this with our papers and reinforcing. So, okay, here's this. First thing we're going to do is just go all the way around like a picture frame. And then we're going to inspect our piece to clip off any overhang. Okay. So I think I'm going to get the overhang now. Clip that off. Now all we're going to do is lay our score tape side by side all the way across. So if when you're laying this you have a gap or something, you can overlap that with a 1/4 inch score tape or this, or just lay a piece of glue in there. And I'll probably just do a little bit of glue in there to make my life easier, so cold or whatever it is really kicked my butt. I can't even believe it. I thought I'd be able to get this tutorial out a lot faster. As a content creator, the worst thing is congestion. Because, you know, when you're talking, you're all nose. Once you get through this, it's all good. So inspect, make sure no overhang of score tape. So if you want to place a little bit of glue along the bottom to maneuver, go ahead, but I already know that this is going to fit over this. And if you have white over here, don't worry, you're not going to see it. Just make sure you bring it all the way down to the bottom, leave only a 1/16. There we go. And that will leave you right to the edge up there. We're just putting it right on over that middle section. And we're going to burnish very well. Now we can bend. And you just go up as far as you can hit yourself. Don't fold it all the way over. You'll rip yourself out. This. So pretty much from the outside, whoops, excuse me, I bumped that. Shame. It looks pretty good from the outside, guys. Our last pieces are those inner hinges. So we're going to go ahead and fold to where it makes kind of an L. See that? Because how we're going to do, here is the inside of our front cover. What we're going to do is end up pulling this up and plopping this right on in there. And you'll notice when you do, that will leave you probably about a 1/4 inch from the bottom of your chipboard and a 1/4 inch spacing from the top. I am going to be using score tape because that's my preferred method. So once again, I want you to make sure that your hinges, when you're folding, it's going the right way. So if you're looking at it, all your hinges are over here, pull it towards you so you can get your curve. We know they're going the right way now. We're going to bring this over, so now the peak should be up on each one of these. Grab your score tape, or if you prefer the glue, but score tape's my choice, and I'll be overlapping. So if you notice, I'm placing this down. However, I'm not on the score line. I am to the right of it. You don't want it on your score line. And we're going to bring that all the way to the bottom, and I am going to overlap my score tape onto the other, bringing it to the edge without going over. It's okay if you overlap. So you just want to make sure you get your tool in there to get that down really good. Then we're going to turn it over, inspect, and chop off any of that overhang without chopping up your cardstock. All right, let's do that for these. All right, I have the score tape on each one of these. I've burnished. Now, on this where we wrote on this, let's grab our eraser and just erase that now. Okay. I'm gonna go do it like this. It's easier for me. All right, I forgot to turn the camera back on, but what you're gonna do, and this is my last one, but I forgot. And that's okay because this is simple. I'm going to put the score tape backing back on this. So say I didn't have these in. Here is the inside of your front cover. What you're going to do is, here is your hinge. You take the score tape backing off. You hold this up straight. Now this is going to push up against this. It does not go here. Not on the cover. It's on your spine. As you can see, I have this in. So you will take this, you'll pull this up, and you will make about a 1/4 inch. It'll make it much easier, but do a 1/4 inch from the bottom of the chipboard up, a little line. That will help you. No more than a 1/4 inch, okay? Otherwise, you're going to be too high with this. But what you're going to do is you're going to pull this up. This part we're going to have upright. You push it up against the cover and it's still on the spine. Line it up with your little pencil mark, and it will be down, and you press it. And so like I have this right here. If this was up, you could see this is up against that. And then you press, and you burnish. Okay, so then to get the second one in, like this, all you do is you press it up against this one, line it up at the bottom, press, and you burnish. And then I'm on my last one now, so I'm going to remove this little backing here. I hope that was helpful. So here, I'm going up against the side of this, lining it up, press, burnish. So once you are done with that, you can see that your pages are tucked back behind your covers, front and back. They're set in. And you should have spacing in between there, as you can see. It's kind of hard to see with this. But anyway, you're going to write, so here's the inside of the front cover. Go ahead and close it, put front. Now rotate this all the way over, right back. Okay. All right, so I'm going to erase this. I'm on the inside of the front cover. Okay. Grab your pencil. I want you to put a number 1. We're going to go 2. Oops. This is page 2. Oh, for the life of me, nothing going right today. There's 2. I think you can see that. Our next page will be 3, 4, and I want you to do this with yours. It helps keep your orientation, and in case you have to take a break, you know what page you are on. 7, and this is 8. And I'm going to leave this here. 8. And there is our album base. Now, in case you got the splits, like down where the seams are, all you have to do is take some of your glue, and I can see where these little shards are, and I can see which way it's supposed to go. I am going to dab a little bit of glue there. Come on, glue. Just a little bit. You don't need a lot. Then I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to roll it in the direction it's supposed to go. Roll it once. Tap, tap, and be done. Don't keep tapping, you'll tear your paper. So I'm going to look at my other side, looks pretty good. But to reinforce it, just in case, I'm just going to dab a little glue up there. I'll roll it to the inside, tap, tap, be done. So that's how you remedy that. I didn't get anything up here, but if you feel like you might want to do it, you can. Just put a little glue, roll it to the inside, or whichever way you think it might go, and then tap, tap, and be done. All right, we are on to decorating the outside. We had one pre-cut, an 8x8 piece of cardstock. We called it an outside mat. All right, we have our template. It's time to get this template cut down just a little bit. All right, so what I want you to do right now is place it down on your piece. It may not be perfect, and that's what we're gonna get cleared up. So what you want to first do, and this is where I'm going to grab this so you can see better. Line it up with the bottom, your template with the bottom of your chipboard cover. And if you do that, you will probably get about 1/8 inch spacing. Now hold it there, grab your pencil. And when you do this, you're going to have it moved over to the right, okay? Line up here and line it up at the bottom, and you'll probably get something looking like that. All right, so I'm gonna keep that there as best I can. So we're gonna work down here. You're flush with the bottom. I want you to move up about 1/8 and make a pencil mark. Bring that up for you, just 1/8, okay? If by pulling this all the way down, you do not have the black showing at the top, then you would have to take just a sliver off to get it to where you have 1/8, okay? But you want to try and keep this straight. So now that we have this pencil mark, we are going to trim that little bit off. So now when I place this, I can center this top and bottom, okay? So that there's an even amount of black here and up here. And again, this is, I'm gonna try and fight with this to keep this so you can kind of see. But I've got about 1/8 of an inch on the bottom, 1/8 of an inch on the top, okay? If I shimmy this over just a little bit to give me 1/8 of an inch over here, I'm gonna grab a clamp so I'm not fumbling around, because I don't want to quite lay this out because it can be deceiving where we need to be. So let me get this where it should be, and then I'll put that cardstock back. So I got 1/8 on the top and 1/8 on the bottom, and I'm going to shimmy this over about 1/8 to where it looks straight. And if you have paper clips or if you have a binder clip to help you right now, grab them. Paper clips will work, binder clip. So you should have about 1/8 here, 1/8, and 1/8, okay? Now over here, I'm pretty good with my cut. Over here is where I'm gonna need to make an adjustment. So with it already there, I can see where the top of my chipboard is, okay? And I'm gonna move from that chipboard over about 1/8, put a mark, and then don't get deceived by your spine piece, okay? Come down just below it, and you would just want to make sure, and you could sketch this out, take a little bit off at a time. I'll bring it up so you can see that line I kind of sketched at an angle there. Okay, so while I still have this, and I know that this is straight, and I'm going to look over here, and I'm going to take about a 1/16 off the side here too. Okay, just a 1/16, just so we have a little more and we're not sitting right where that hinge is. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and slice that little bit off, and you're going to do a little bit at a time if you are unsure. And then I'm going to also come down and take a sliver off the side, about a 1/16. And it doesn't have to be exactly perfect, okay? So I'm going to take a look now, and I'm looking pretty good. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. So now we have our template, and this is for our designer paper. Template on chipboard, whoops, on the chipboard, and this is designer paper. So if you're gonna make a couple of these, you'll wanna keep this so you don't have to recreate it if you're making the album twice. So we have that. We're ready to move on. Let's grab our template, and what we want in our paper pack is this piece. On the back, it looks like this. So looking at it with the ship up here, this over here, we're just going to rotate it. That way we have the same leftovers. All we're going to do is we're going to line this up with our paper, and we're going to draw. We're going to draw this shape, and then we're going to cut it out. Now, if you are using the coffee and chocolate paper, I'll bring that up in just a moment so you can kind of see how I did it. Although I'm not teaching for that. So I did a pretty dark line there. I'm going to go ahead. Now when I do this, because we're going to need this, here is the curve and here is the curve. Okay, the curve's here, the curve's here, and then it goes down this way. I want you to first, we're going to cut along the long side, the top. So it would have been like this, okay? We're going to cut this way because we're going to need that. Like I said, this is a little bit different than what we're used to doing if you're following along. We're going to need that. We're going to set that off the side. Next, I'm going to come down this side. And I will keep this until I am done. And now I have the curved edge, the curves. And I'm going to try and get this as best I can. This is not an easy album. It's more, well, I wouldn't say it's not easy. I would just say it's a patience. But the hardest part is getting your template. So this is what you should look like. I'm going to grab this so you can kind of see if you're working with the coffee and chocolate. You can see I have these two windows. Over here, I have a little bit of white. I came down. So when I was putting my template down, I just kind of laid it out so it kind of looks centered and cut it. And this you'll find in your paper pack, so you would want to get that out of your paper pack and just hang tight. All right, make sure you are looking at the front. Let's see how we did. And if you need to trim a little more off, then do so. So place your sheet that you just cut up against. You'll have a little more black over here because we don't want to get on the hinge. But if you center it in there, it should look pretty good. Now, I am not using score tape. When I tried before, when I was doing that chocolate and coffee, it was horrible trying to line everything up with score tape. I'm just going to be using glue. All right. I'm going to get this down. So once you have this down, you're going to open this up and burnish it really well. All right, so that's what it should look like. Do the best you can. Got a little black along the sides. Looks good. Let's grab our 8x8. And in your paper pack, you will find this. So with this, we need several pieces off this. We're going to be needing the bottles, the book, the lantern, and this. We might grab a couple other things. So what I recommend doing is just coming in from the side, cutting out and around this, cutting out and around your bottles, your book, the lantern, and this piece. So let's go ahead and do that. And I am cutting out and around the hinge and all the stuff. I'll show you mine as soon as I'm done if you want to wait to see what mine looks like. Now, when you are cutting out the bottles, okay, don't separate them. Just go right in and around those. All right, I'll show you. So one thing, I'm looking at it to where the wave's like this. I did snip off, I think it was down here, but I only have a little bit of this white down here, and I smoothed it out on the top. So I think that there was some white pokey thing, a little taller, that I clipped off there. The bottles, the lantern, this piece, and the book. We'll just stick those off. Now, any leftover scrap papers, just put those in your reserve pile. Your reserve pile is a scrap pile because we might be grabbing after some little scraps. So this is what the mat is for. We're going to situate this, and you can turn it until it fits appropriately. But the idea is if you get this on here, kind of rotate it. I'm going to show you what mine kind of will fit. If I put mine to where the wave's up here, this will fit here, that here, and over here. The idea is you should have a little bit of black on the edges, so you'll be centering this, because when we cut out and around it, we're going to leave about a 1/16 of black showing so it will stand out. If you need to trim, like perhaps up here, you need to trim it down just a little more on this piece, then do so. So I'm going to go ahead and apply glue. So I'm going to do that, and then I will cut out and around it. So mine is not perfect, but that is what that looks like. Grab some of your scrap cardstock that was left over from when you were doing your pages and cuts. And what we're going to do is we're going to apply glue to the bottles, and we're going to glue that down. And when we cut out and around, we'll leave a 1/16 of black showing. We're also going to do that with the lantern, the book, and this piece. So let's do that. All right, so I have all my pieces here. And I am going to prop this up a little bit with something, if I can find something. Let's see, I think that'll work. So the first thing I want you to do is make sure that your wave is going in the correct position, and kind of just lay this down and center it. Don't glue it down just yet. What I want you to do is once you have that kind of centered in there, side to side, top to bottom, I want you to grab this piece and place it down off to the side like that. Once you find that, now you know where we want to glue this down. So I'm just going to flip this over, put her down. And before it totally dries, before I burnish, I'm going to make sure that that looks good. And I think that that looks great. So I'm going to burnish that really quick. You definitely want to burnish when using glue too, to spread that out underneath, and so you don't get any lumps, bumps, or warping. Now it's time to get this one. I'll try and get this back where it needs to go. I'm going to lift mine up here. All right. Now that I have that, I'm going to open it up and give this a good burnishing. All right, next, let's grab the lantern. The lantern's going to go right here, overlapping on top of this. So let's glue that down. We'll give that a good burnish. The bottles. We're going to glue that down right here. And now the book. That looks pretty good. The last piece for this is follow your soul, it knows the way. So don't cut up through the trim because we may be using that. So I'm going to come in and cut this out. If you want to use something different in here, please, by all means, it's your album. Use what you like. But I'm going to show you what this will look like. And when I'm cutting on some of these cut apart pages, I am just going to try and take out what I need so I don't have a bunch of pieces floating around, because then it's kind of harder to find it. So after cutting mine out, this is what it looks like. We're just going to stick that right there. If you have ink and want to ink around your edges, you can do that, but I'm just going to stick mine down. All right, I think that looks wonderful. We're going to be moving on to placing the piece in the back as well as on the spine. In your paper pack, grab another one of these. And we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to lay this down over the coins and the gears. So the thing is with this, okay, is we need to flip this over because it's for the back. And if you come over to the back, see, it'll fit. So I am going to be reminding us so that we don't cut it the wrong way. So I'm going to line this all up, and I'm going to trace around this. Again, flip your sheet over, or if you didn't write on yours, make sure it fits. It's going the right way because our curves are different. All right, I'm going to do the same thing as I did before. So this is like this. I'm first going to cut this way, then I'm going to cut this way, and then trim. All right, I'm on the back of the album. I have mine cut out. And where'd my pink sheet go? So you can kind of see, we're just going to do the same thing we did before. So we're going to lay it down, make sure that we don't have any trimming to do. Make sure it's even, and then we're going to glue this down. So let's do that. Oh, I think that is straight enough for me. All right, now we are working on the spine. Now you should have a leftover piece like this. Flip it over, you'll see See Adventure. Just hold it like this, it is upside down, measure over 7.5 and cut. And this should fit in there. Have a little black at the top and the bottom. If you do not want this on your spine, you can definitely flip this over to have it continuation. I actually am going to place it down like that. I like it. Kind of breaks up the front and the back covers and blends in very well. All right. Decorating the outside is complete. We are now going to move on in to the inside of the book. So before we start on page 1, we're going to reinforce the page hinges. Now I was going to use these, but put these in your reserve pile or your scrap pile and grab this out of your paper pack. So the first thing we're going to do is look at our paper like this to where this is over here. Measure over 7.5 inches and cut. Once you've done that, this is what you should have. Put this in your reserves. We're going to make 2 cuts. We're going to measure over 1.5 inches and cut. We'll measure over again 1.5 inches and cut. And I have this on down here so you can keep your orientation correct so we have the same leftovers. So this is what you should have. Now we're going to measure over 1/2 inch and cut, measure over 1/2 inch and cut. Go ahead and place this in your reserves. Let's start here. This piece, I have this opened up. You can see where page 2 is, but what we're going to do is this is where I want to use the score tape, okay? But I'm going to show you what we're going to be doing. We're going to be pulling up our page 2, laying this down evenly between the top of the spine and the bottom, and we're going to adhere that down, and that is going to go over our hinge here, and that's why I want to do score tape for this. So on both of these pieces that we have, we're going to put score tape around the outside like a picture frame, and then we're just going to lay 2 pieces in between that. If we can get that, I think we can. All right, I got the score tape on the back of both my pieces, and we're going to burnish that down really good. And the one I think we're going to work with right up front is this one. So I'm going to remove the score tape backing. Oh, and make sure that you have no score tape peeking over the edges. If you do, then you're going to want to trim that. All right, I got all the score tape backing off. And again, we're going to place this centered, top and bottom. And I'm just going to hold my page up and place it. Now we're going to burnish. The reason why I'm having you hold your page up so you don't get too far over. You can still do that. Now all we're going to do is place our hand here and move this up to create that crease. And that is why I wanted to use score tape on that. Okay, we're going to do the same thing with the back, and we'll remove that. And what you're going to want to do is you'll hold up your page and place it down, but most importantly, where you got this other one is you want to line that up as well. Then we'll pull this up. All right, so now we have these two pieces, and we're just going to use glue for these. And again, I'm going to try and line that up with this one if I can, and we're getting it in between those score lines there. We'll give that a burnish. And if you have any glue that kind of seeps out the side, let's just clean that up. And we're going to do the same with that. If you are working with the coffee and chocolate, this is the print that I used. You're also going to pull, we're working with 3 paper packs. So we had this, you're going to need to pull this sheet out of the other one, and you will want to pull another sheet out of your 3rd paper pack that matches in. So that is exactly what we're going to do. So we are going to be cutting for page 1 and page 8. We're not going to complete page 8, but at least we're going to have these out of the book, so there's no chance of using these because we want them to all match in here. All right, we're going to be working on page 1, like I said, and you should have 2 of these in your paper pack. The first one, what you're going to do is you're going to flip this over, and you're just going to come down to the bottom left hand on this side. You will trace around it, and then when you're cutting, I'll show you. You will cut this way first, and then this way, and then trim around. And you want to make sure that it is this side. And the reason why is because we have to fit on the inside. If we went like this, it's not going to fit. So when we're placing it, we're coming down and we're cutting for that. Once you've done that, just slip it right here. Don't glue it down. Set it off to the side. You have another one of these. Now on this one, you're going to flip it to this side. Trace around. Okay. Our first cut, once again, this way and then this way. Make sure you have your chipboard one and not your designer, because we are working on the inside covers of the chipboard, okay? So I'm going to get this cut. So once you've cut that, this one will fit here. I want you to set this off to the side until we get to page 8 in the tutorial. The only reason why I'm having you cut it now is because this paper blends in, right? And I don't want us to accidentally grab this paper and cut it. So I'm sticking that off to the side away from my scrap pile. And now we are going to be working on page 1. And we are done with the chipboard templates, so you can set it off to the side, maybe staple it to your pre-cutting guide so that you have it all together. We're on page 1, and we're going to go over our pre-cuts. So the first one was a 7 by 10 1/4, and we called it a large fold out. And what we did was we laid this on our scoring board to where we are 10 1/4 across. We scored at 1/2 and 3/4. Next we had, let me get that up there, 7/8 by 4 1/2, and we called it a window frame hinge. Now this goes with this. If you're using the Tim Holtz baseboard frames, if you're not, then I'll help you through that when we get there. Oh, the scoring. What we did on this was we laid it to where we are 7/8 across. We scored at 3/8 and 1/2. Next, we have a 6 7/8 by 7 1/16 large spaced pocket. What we first did was laid this on our scoring board. We are 6 7/8 across. We scored at a half, 5/8, 6 1/4, 6 3/8. We then rotated it. Now we're sitting at 7 1/16. We scored at a half and 5/8. Next, we had a tuck pocket for the large fold out. It's 4 inches by 5 5/8, and there's no scoring. Let's grab our page 1. And the first thing that I would like us to do is get this on. So we are going to have our hinge off to the left, and you have 2 score lines, and we're going to fold on both of those. Now, on those 2 score lines, on the outside score line, I want you to pinch and crease. You will still be able to see your other one. And what we're going to do is hook that back behind, and we are going to center it between the edge over here of our curve and the bottom as best you can. We're going to pinch and hold it. If you feel that it has slipped, realign it. Let's grab our glue. And one way, really quick, to make sure you are straight, you should be able to, when you fold this out, see that score line. And we're just going to put a little glue on this, fold it over, and burnish. Okay, let's open that up. You can burnish from this side as well, but you just want to make sure you don't have any glue. So once we are good, let's go ahead, our large spaced pocket. You have your score lines here and here. Sorry about the glare from the window, and you have them going across the bottom. On that inside score line, we're going to clip up to the top score line, going this way. And then we're going to clip that out. We'll repeat that over here, the inside score line to the top one, and clip it out. All right, so now we're just going to fold on all those score lines. So you got 2 score lines down here, and we're going to fold on those. So we have this all done. We do need to put a curve in here, but not quite yet, and we're not going to assemble this yet. We're going to first find our paper. In your paper pack, you will find this print. It has the ship, the trim. On the back, it is this. So our first cut, we're going to turn this sideways, so we're looking at it. This is sideways, because I always start over here and tell you to measure over this way and then cut. It keeps us consistent rather than having to cut up, down, all around. Measure over 6 1/4 and cut. Once you make that cut, this is what you should have. This piece goes in our reserves. We're going to look at it like this. Measure over 5 1/2 inches and cut. And this is the piece that we want. Now here is this. If you were to fold back all your flaps, so on the inside score line, pinch it in, so all you're looking at is your piece. Same over here. The bottom is the flap, by the way. If you were to place it and verify, this should fit in there pretty good, giving you a little bit of a black border, and that's what we want. We need to first put the curve in this, and then we will cut the curve in this. All I'm going to do is use my score tape, and you can go down as far as you would like. All I'm really doing right now is trying to keep the same distance between each. If you have a cup, you could do a cup. You could use whatever you like. I'm just going to use my score tape. And I think this will be good. So I'm just going to draw that curve. And I'm going to cut. This little piece, just go ahead and put in your reserves. I'm going to erase any pencil mark. Okay, back to this. We've already pulled in our sides, so all we can see is what we need to cover. I want you to do it down here too. So on the upper score line here, push it back. Let's apply glue and center it in there and glue it down. Now you can leave a little more black here, leave a little black at the bottom so you can see what it is, that it's a pocket. For me, it's easier to cut the decorated paper, then cut the black cardstock to what I want. So I'm just going to try to center that side to side, leave a little bit of black. Same amount of black up here than up here. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to burnish. All right, next, you can draw your line, just kind of go around. I'm just going to freehand this. And I think it'll be fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. So that's as good as I'm going to get it. So now I have the curve. Flip this over. And you see your two score lines? What you want to do is just position them to where it makes a spacing. So it's kind of flat on the side. If you need to burnish again and push in, do so. So I'm going to get mine ready to go. So you can see I got a little bit of spacing there. I'm going to do the same down here, make sure that this is where it needs to be. So these go in first and then this comes over. So all I'm going to do here is put a little glue in the corners of this bottom flap. Hold in my side. I'll try this side first to try and line it up. And I'll pinch. And just to get it started, line up over here. And then I can come back and line that up. Just do the best you can. Once you think it's tacked down enough, you can then burnish a bit if you'd like. It's time to place this. So I'm going to give mine a little bend here. Now one thing you can do is right here on the top where these flaps are, just kind of cut it at an angle. Just like that. And we're just going to apply glue to the flaps. And this will give you more spacing to get your picture mats in or photographs, however you're doing yours. I'm going to come in about a 1/2 inch from the side here. And I'll come about a 1/2 inch from the bottom or so. That looks pretty straight. And then I'm just going to get my tool in here and try to burnish down a little. In your reserves, you will have this piece. On the back, it has the circle. We're going to divide these. So I'm just going to cut up. We want to cut out and around him. And I'm not going to cut into the little starfish there. So I'm just going to, in case I want to use that later, I'm going to put this in my reserves. And now I'm going to cut out and around this. All right, I'm going to grab some scratch black cardstock. I'm going to apply glue to this. And then I'm going to cut out and around, leaving a black border. My least favorite thing to do is cut circles. I did the best I could here. It's not perfect, but I'm going to glue that down right here. And if you want to make it a tuck, what we can do is just rotate that. Kind of put some glue down here. Just a little bit, if you want to do that. Let's get our paper for in here. Now I'm going to be using some scraps in our reserves for this. But what you'll find, if you're following along with me, is a piece like this. You'll see part of the tags were cut off. This piece is approximately 1.5 by 9 3/8. This piece is 12 inches by about 5 3/4. On the back, it is this. And what we're going to do on both of these is we're going to measure over 9 1/4 and cut. All right, we have this, and you have a choice. You can either apply glue and place this right here. So you're going to have a little bit of black here. On your outside score line, you'll probably be about 1/8 of an inch away. And you'll have a little black down here. This, you will line up with the sides and leave a little black at the top. And you can glue that down to have it look like this. Or flip this over. And you can have this side, which matches in with this. Bring this for some color over the top. And that is how I'm going to do mine. we are going to be placing a magnet. Grab a plus and a minus. We're going to come right on over here, and we are going to leave maybe about, I'd say, a ½ inch from the side, or a ¼ inch even is better. Okay, we're going to go ahead and just kind of softly go like this so we can make it around that. We're going to make sure we are straight over here and straight at the bottom. Now we're going to let that find the mate. And I'm just going to squirt a little glue under there and let it sit for a moment. Once it has dried, you're going to just kind of shimmy that on off for now. You don't have to cover this if you don't want to. On the very last page, we'll find this cut apart. And I'm just going to weave around this. And then we are going to mount this to some black cardstock and cut out and around that like we have been. I'll show you what mine looks like when I'm done if you'd like to wait. After cutting mine out, it looks like this. Let me try to get a better view there. And I've applied glue, and I'm just going to glue that down to some scrap cardstock. And then I'll cut out and around, leaving a little bit of a black border. Alright, I cut out and around mine. All I'm going to do is place glue on this and glue it over the magnet. Perfect. It's time to work here. In your paper pack, you will find this print. On the back, it is this. Alright, we're going to look at it on this side. We'll turn it to where the starfish is down here. That is there. Measure over 6 7/8 and cut. And if we need to trim that down more, we will. And now we're going to measure over 9 1/4 and cut. So let's take a look at how this looks. By centering it in there, having black all the way around, I think that that was a good cut for us. Let's go ahead and glue that down. If you'd rather have that side up, you can do that, but remember we have a tuck and we have that fold out there. So it's up to you. Okay, I got that all down. Let's grab let me turn it around so you can read it, the window frame hinge. And we're going to go ahead and fold on both of those score lines. We're going to grab this one out of the pack. This one is about 3.5 by 5. And I am going to cut out the insides here. So I'm just taking my scissors and doing the best I can here. Snip, and then I'll clean it up a little bit better. Okay. So with this is how I'm gonna get this to look a little bit better. So I'm just gonna work through this chipboard. All we're gonna do is glue that, and I'm gonna push my score line out of the way there. But all I'm gonna do is take this part and glue it right back behind here. Okay, and it's on the left side. So that is down. Okay, in your paper pack you will find this. And if you're working with the coffee and chocolate, what you'll look for is one of these cut apart panels. Okay. So I am going to carefully cut this image out, and we'll stick the rest of this in our reserves for right now. So pull your hinge part out, and we're just going to go ahead and frame the ship the best we can. Now when you trace, you're going to trace from out here, okay? I'll just come up here, over here, until I get over here. And then I'm just going to pull that back in, line myself back up, and then I'll go down the side. Okay, it's kind of hard to see, but it will be fine. All right, so this, and how to check to make sure it's gonna work is once you put this back behind you, line up your top and your bottom, okay? I'm gonna pull this in until it slides all the way over, okay? I can see I need to trim off a little more. I am just gonna keep it right there and trim it. I'll flip it over and it should look pretty good there. And that's what we're gonna do. Now, if you wanna use magnets, go out ahead. All we wanna get right here with the glue is around the outside. I think in the coffee and chocolate I may have used some smaller magnets to keep this shut, but I'm not gonna worry about it. Just make sure you pull this all the way back and you push it over. And it should be good. All right, here's our thing. We have a spacing there, okay? When you open it up, you will see that other score line. We're just gonna get the flap. That's it. Push it back. And I think I'm just gonna come in maybe a 1/2 inch from the side, center that a little. All right, we have this. It's the cutting from off here. I'm gonna flip it around to where I have kind of the stitching. I'm gonna measure over 1/2 inch and cut. All right, now what we're gonna do is a measure to fit. I'm gonna stick this, let's see, where this is right here at the bottom. My stitch is there. Make a pencil mark to the top and snip it and glue it down. So make sure I'm not going past that one score line that I can see right on in there. So let's grab our tuck pocket. And what I want you to do is look at it to where you are 5 5/8 across. And we are just going to rotate that. Over here, you're going to put a fine line of glue and then across the bottom, because this is going to be a side tuck. So when I rotate this, the glue is here and here. Flip that out of the way, match this up with the side and bring it to the bottom. We'll burnish that. And now we'll find our paper. In your reserves, you will find this print. And what we're going to do is flip this completely upside down. The dial is down here. You can see the C right here. Measure over 5 1/2 and cut. So after making that cut, this is what you should have. Now we'll turn it like this. Measure over 3 7/8 and cut. We're going to apply glue and we're going to glue that down right there. Okay, grab this out of your reserves. First off, let's just cut this trim piece off because I think we might use that. Okay. We're going to bring it over to the right on top of the other one and measure to fit to the side. We're going to cut that. The rest goes in our reserve here. And then I'm going to clean this up a bit. Okay, the ocean is calling. Let's grab that one out. We're going to cut out and around that. Put that back to my reserves. I'll show you what mine looks like as soon as I'm done. Here's mine. I'm not going to mount this to black cardstock. You can to make it stand out a little more. I'm just going to glue this down. All right, it is time to get this in the book. And all we're going to do is apply glue. Of course, we're going to remove that back of that magnet there. I'm going to get this ready. I'm going to place mine, and you can see how I'm doing it. All right, here we go. So when I do this, I'm going to first try to line this up with how I know it's supposed to be up here. You should be away from that hinge. And mine falls where this part's almost flush with the side of my chipboard. And then we have to open it up and burnish really well. I think it looks really good. We're going to move on to page 2. One thing we do have to do is cross the bottom down here. Tee off our strips that we did in between, but we'll do that after we move on a bit. We're moving on to page 2.